Republican political operative here at Trump Tower. Ladies and gentlemen, the Madman himself is back. The Madman, President Trump, was on the campaign, has returned. He has returned, and he is out. He is going on offense. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows how the information environment just changed. He is now back on the offense. He is taking the fight to the adversaries. Take a bow, President Trump, because you just earned it. Take a bow. I am still not tired. I am still not tired. Fake news was squashed. He called out the alt-left. He called out the alt-left Antifa, and it is time right now for Antifa to be declared a domestic terrorist organization. The best line. Excuse me. Fake. I'm not done. Excuse me. I'm not done. Fake news. Excuse me. I'm not done. Your fake news. It's time right now. Jeff Sessions needs to declare Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. I'm the guy who started StopAntifa.com. I'm the guy who has been talking about Antifa, the bike lock professor, Antifa professor Eric Clanton. I've been calling out Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization for months. And now the President of the United States has finally, at this time, called them out by name, the alt-left domestic terrorists that they are. It is time for an official declaration from the Justice Department. As I stand here, of course, I'm at Trump Tower, but right behind me down the street is, of course, the FBI headquarters. The FBI headquarters right here. This is what needs to happen next. What needs to happen next is the domestic terrorist designation of Antifa. This group, this violent group that showed up with baseball bats and clubs, that is now threatening my march on Google after fake news from CNN, fake news from the mainstream media. They are threatening to attack my group, my peaceful rally, my peaceful march on Google. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to commit violence. Now, the alt-left has been called out. Antifa must be designated. They've already been designated by the Homeland Security Department of New Jersey. It is time once again for them to be declared domestic terrorist organization. The mainstream media has incited violence for far too long. The mainstream media has fanned the flames of this, and they must be declared. Number one, the domestic terrorist of Antifa must be declared. Number two, thank goodness the president is now back. President Trump is President Trump again. Notice as soon as he gets out of DC, he goes and becomes the President Trump that we all know and love from the campaign. He immediately turns back into the Madman. He immediately turns back into the Madman on the offense the way he was in the past. Why is it that his staff in the White House, that his staff in DC, the White House right down here, why is it that his staff in the White House does not allow him to go on offense like this? Why does the White House Communications Office never go on offense? Why does the White House press office never go on offense, never push back on individuals like this? Why? And it is quite simple, because are they on the side of the president or not, or is it just that they do not get how communications works? You need to stay on the offense. You need to stay on the offense. What's going on in this country is that CNN is trying to start World War II for ratings. That is what CNN is trying to do. They must be stopped. The entire mainstream media must be stopped. They cannot be allowed to fan the flames of Civil War II with this nonsense. We are Americans. We are patriots. We love our country. I'm personally a conservative Republican. That's who I am. That's who I've always been since 2005. I've been involved in politics, and I've been a conservative Republican since day one. What the mainstream media is trying to do is paint the actions of a small group of fringe activists as representative of the whole. That's what they're trying to do. Guilt by association. It's guilt by association. Your logical fallacy is, right? Your logical fallacy is. Civil War II, they're trying to do it for ratings. Well, we're not going to have it, and it's not going to happen on our watch, because we're going to call out the fake news for what they are. They've been absolutely disgusting. Their contempt for the American public, their contempt for the truth is absolutely disgusting, and we are not going to stand up for it 1 second longer. The president is not going to stand up for it, and that is why he is pushing back on the completely outrageous conduct of the national press. That is what I called out. That is why the president retweeted me yesterday, because together we are calling out the fact that they are trying to fan the flames of violence. Meanwhile, they're covering up the violence. They're covering up the violence that's been going on in our inner cities. They're covering up the violence that's going on overseas by groups like ISIS throughout Europe. They're covering up the attacks about what's going on in Europe. Why don't they talk about that? Why don't they highlight the attacks? There was an incident in Paris yesterday. Why don't they talk about it? There was an incident in Moscow. The Moscow subway was about to be bombed yesterday. Why didn't the mainstream media cover that? Why didn't they highlight it? Because they only want to talk about the actions of these fringe groups that serves their political narrative. Well, it's not going to happen. Their defamation and their false statements will not hold water. John McCain is going to get called out. The globalists are going to be called out. What happened in Seattle, the alt-left, Antifa, these violent thugs in the streets are going to be called out. These violent thugs that are going to be named and shamed and declared domestic terrorists, because that is what they are. The media terrorists that are aiding and abetting the domestic terrorists in the streets. Aiding and abetting domestic terrorists in the streets. CNN endorsed Antifa yesterday. Don't forget that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget the fact that CNN endorsed Antifa. They did that last night. Well, now the President of the United States, rightfully so, has called them out. Has called them out as the alt-left thug terrorists that they are. I applaud the President for this line of attack on the media, for his line of speaking truth to their lies, for his line of standing up for the rights of the First Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Amendment is a human right. The First Amendment is so important that our founding fathers made it Amendment number 1 in our Constitution. That is what this American flag stands for. That is why we do not stand for violence. Why is CNN, Jake Tapper, putting up images of violence? Why is CNN, Jake Tapper, encouraging violence? Why is CNN contributor Rick Wilson saying that all Trump supporters should be lynched? Why is he saying statements like that? Why are they making these escalatory, violent statements? Why are they doing that? I held a rally for peace. I held a rally for peace against political violence. I stood up against it. I called it out on the left. I called it out when the extremists were talking about it. I stood up for peace and regular discourse in this country. I went to Shakespeare to stand up against political violence. I've always stood for peace. Regardless of what they said about me, regardless of what the lies, the smears, the hatred that's said about me and my family, the threats that are made on me and my family and our peaceful rallies. Why are they trying to incite violence at our peaceful rallies? You see, they don't know the power of nonviolence. They don't understand the power of what Gandhi did. Remember, Gandhi won the independence of India by being peaceful. He won through peace. He showed the way that peace is strength. George Washington talked about peace through strength. That is the quality that we need. That is the strategy that we need. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless our president. God bless the American people. The Trump train is never going to stop. The deep state is growing desperate. The globalists are growing desperate. And God bless the United States of America.